today. We got Mum's Jeep Grand Cherokee in the shed for a set of front brake pads and rotors because she's a bit rough on the gear and wore them down to nothing. We got the brand new rotors sitting here with the pads. Should be a simple stitch up free job, but we'll see how we go. First up, we'll jack it up to a height that's easy to work with. And just for evidence that it's Mum's car, check out these rims. Hell yeah. Now that's a lot of damage. Then jack up the chassis to get the wheels off the ground. Then I get the 3/4 gun on these tyres and smash the lug nuts off. These rims sit on the hub really well, so you got to pull the lug nuts off and then put one back on just a little bit and hit the tyre with a 4-pound hammer so it comes loose. Then undo this bolt that holds this pin in. Then with a parallel punch, I knock out the top pin and then the bottom pin that hold in this retainer clip. After the pins are out, the retaining clip just pops out. Then I stick the punch in from the other end and hammer out that first pin. Then I beat on one of the pads to push the pistons back into the caliper a little bit and follow through with the other side. And then stick a screwdriver in between the old pad and the rotor to push those pistons back into the caliper a little bit extra so I can fit the pads in. I always lay everything out real neat so I know how to put it back together, especially with stuff I haven't done before. Then I got to attack these two bolts, that one there and this one. This big ratchet makes light work of that. Before I take the last one off, I get the zip tie ready, then remove that bolt and zip tie the caliper up to somewhere safe on the body so that way it doesn't pull on the brake line. There's this O-ring they put on front of the rotor, so when they put the rotor on the production line, the O-ring will hold it in place while it rolls. I didn't know this and tried to go over it with the rotor, which made a bit of a drama, but ended up making it over. And for the other side, I just pulled it off with a seal pick and it was a lot easier. Then I clean up all the dust off with this paper towel and coat it all down in Everseas to make sure it doesn't get stuck, even though I thought it was stuck because of the rust, but really it was just that O-ring. Here's the new brake rotors I got and their part number. And here's me trying to unwrap it with one hand. It's important that I compare the new rotor to the old rotor to make sure it's got the same stud pattern and overall dimensions. New rotors usually come with a coating that stops them from rusting while they're stored away, so it's important to use a brake cleaner to get that off before you put it on the car, because it will reduce braking performance. Then I never seize the caliper bolts. Put 2 lug nuts on the rotor to hold it in position while I mount the caliper. Then I cut the zip ties that I put in to hold it up and put it in position. Then I put the bolts in place and tighten them down. Here we got the new brake pads. These ones are pretty cool. Bendix are always good quality and they have a no break-in procedure, which is pretty neat. There's the part number there. Now I'll compare them to the old pads. Check out the difference on them. These old ones had nothing left. Two of the new pads have the wear indicator on them and 2 of them don't. You need to use one each per caliper. They just rub on the rotor when they're wearing out so that you can hear them and know to replace them. Now I put in the old brake pads, then use a screwdriver and then a big chisel later to really push the pistons all the way back into the caliper to fit the new pads. I do one side at a time, and it's important to have always a pad in either side at a time, otherwise you can risk popping the pistons out when you're pulling one side back. Once they're in, I slide that first pin back in. Put some copper coat on that bolt. Thread it into the pin, tighten it down. Then I start sliding both of the pins in. Then I put the clip in and then try to get them both through. Then I give the rotor a quick spin to make sure I haven't seized it by incorrectly putting in the brake pads. Then I can undo those lug nuts that I used to hold the rotor in place. Then you get the tyre up, located on the hub, and put those lug nuts in. Once it's all centered, give it a test spin, make sure it's not seized once again. Then get it on the ground and give all 5 lug nuts a good tension in the right order. Then you hop in, press the brake pedal while the engine's off just to make sure that you press those pistons in right and that there's no leaks or anything in the brake lines. Then fire it up and give it a good proper press down, make sure it doesn't go all the way down and locks up properly. Then you can take it out for a drive. Pretty simple stuff, just get it up to speed and then hit the brakes and make sure it's stopping really well. You want to give it a really good test because you may as well just give it the max test that you can. And then because the 6.4 litre Hemi, I just went and gave it some gas. Might just send it. See how hard it goes. What a weapon. And that was it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.